I got a great deal on this vintage fishing rod that's in really good shape, especially once it's all cleaned up. It's a Brooklure all glass spin cast rod, Brooklure by Spiegel. It says Tops and Sports there. And when you look at the wrappings on there, the windings, and the eyes are just, I mean, they're just exquisite condition. And that's true all the way up to the tip. The only issue, except for a little bit of dirt that I'll clean off, is that there's a big chunk out of the cork there. Now I could just re-cork this, but I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to repair that. And what I'm going to do to repair that is to fix it with a 2-part resin or 2-part epoxy that you knead together, and one that is soluble in water at least before it sets up, so that can be shaped and smoothed and so on, and it'll prevent any more loss of cork and make this a functional and usable reel. First thing I'm going to do, however, is to clean up the cork. And so the way I clean up the cork is to take 70% isopropyl alcohol, soak a rag in it, and then just rub that on there. And that'll make that cork look like brand new again. And it works well on some other areas of the rod too. I don't know, it looks like there might be some adhesive here or something, I don't know, but let's just see if it'll come off with some alcohol. And it looks to be coming off pretty good. I mean, this rod is beautiful. Okay, so let's start adding our epoxy or resin. Okay, we got an equal amount of each of the components of the kneadable epoxy or resin. So we just start working that in and get that fully mixed. Now, one way that, some people use to fix damage to cork without recorking them is to take some fragments of cork that maybe you grind off with a cheese grater or a really coarse rasp or file, and then mix it with glue and kind of fill in divots with that. This is a pretty good sized chunk. I'm not sure how well that method would work on this one, and even then it's really hard to match the texture certainly of the cork, and sometimes the color and so on. So I'm not too worried about it in terms of perfectly matching. I just want this to be functional so I can take this rod out and use it and not have to worry about that damage expanding. So I'm going to just use this method. I mean, the hardest part is going to be to make sure that it's shaped correctly. But I'm just going to start adding this and pushing it down good, and trying to smoothly marry it to the cork. And it can really help to moisten your fingers with water so that your fingers don't stick to it and pull it up, which I'm going to end up doing here in a minute, and get this first layer down. Then I'm going to get me some water. And this water will, this stuff is water soluble before it sets up, but when it sets up, it's strong and hard as a rock. And of course, it's something that you can sand too. It's hard. It doesn't sand real easy because it's hard, but it can be worked and sanded and so on. But anything that you can get smoothed out before it sets up, that's a good thing. So if you can get it shaped and smooth the best you can before it sets up, it'll save you a lot of work later. And get that really matched and flush with the cork, so that you don't want to have to sand close to the cork, because that cork will sand off really fast, much faster than the epoxy. I think that's about as symmetrical and good as I can get it. And so I think that makes a nice patch that'll protect that cork from any further catching on stuff and for any further degradation. Okay, it's one day later, and the epoxy or resin or whatever you want to call it is set up and totally dry. And it doesn't look too bad. It doesn't match perfectly, but unless you were really studying it, you wouldn't really know there was much of a repair there. So this rod is ready to end up taking and getting something mounted on it and go fishing. Now with that gold colored where you attach where you tighten the rod to the handle, with that kind of gold and that kind of bronze colored reel seat, I wonder what I might match up with this old gal. This is probably 40s or 50s, I would guess. I'm not sure. But one thing I thought of would be my Irex Eldorado. Might look real nice on there. It's not the exact same gold, but I think it kind of goes well with that rod. That looks real pretty on there, and probably relatively contemporaneous. Probably similar age of manufacture in terms of the reel and the rod. So there you have it, one way to fix a damaged cork on a vintage rod. Thanks for watching.